Gentlemen, directors, good to see you. Sally, it's always a pleasure to see you. Mrs. Tumbleson, welcome. It's good to see everybody. So it is 5 o'clock, and I will call the meeting to order. We are here tonight to talk, for a work session, to talk about the upcoming funding through the American Rescue Plan Act. And so I will now turn it over, I don't know, Mr. Stevenson, or who's doing the,
Mr. Mayor, I guess I'll kick it off. And really,
Okay.
Most of you have never been through a workshop before, except you. And there really is no set agenda. This is pretty much just an opportunity for council to talk about the rescue plan money that we're going to fix them to get and how you propose we spend it. We have put together some information here for you. And I just got some more information this morning on some fiber optic stuff, broadband information that connects our building. So I didn't get a chance to share that with you before the meeting. But we've got about $1 million in broadband and fiber optic stuff that we could put together. Thank you. There's a proposal that's on the table for $980,000 that would connect 4 of our buildings. Under the CARES Act money, we connected 4 of our buildings, being City Hall, Public Works, Lightfoot, and the Rec Center. We're all connected with fiber, or I think they're still working on it, as a matter of fact, but anticipate getting that done this year. We've got 4 other buildings that we can spend some money on to do that. That is certainly an eligible expense, I think, under the rescue money. We have put together a calculator here that Lynn has been working with GFAO to do revenue replacement. You should have a copy of that. We've always anticipated about $2 million in lost revenue from last year. The numbers that she has been able to use out of this calculator, if you would, that they have put together and shared with us is $2.6 million, 2.672 to be exact. So revenue replacement, I know, was big on the list, and that's certainly one of the eligible uses that we can use. We have actually built, if I remember correctly, $2.1 million into the budget to be replaced in the general fund from that source of money. So that money certainly is coming. I've had conversations with the gentleman in Tallahassee. He's assured me that he's got everything he needs in order to get this the money dispersed. So that, along with, I shared with you a list of infrastructure projects that are certainly on our list in our 5-year capital improvement plan. And working with Mr. Tinch, we've kind of prioritized some of those. And I certainly have some suggestions, but would like to know from council how you want to proceed with some of those projects. Some of them are top priority, some are lower priority, but we were able to at least put some numbers to those so that you have an idea of infrastructure cost and projects that are associated with stormwater, sewer, and water. So,
Charles, I don't, do you guys have that list in front of you? I don't.
I can pull it up.
Well, I was in the backup material, but I didn't.
you know, I sent it to you. Yeah, I sent it to you in your email, but I can certainly burn a copy real quick if.
Well, let me see if I can look at it on, yeah, I didn't bring my, usually I don't bring my computer because I'm running the meeting and I don't usually, but I don't have it.
Andy, let me see if I can,
I would like a copy too, Charles.
I'm sorry?
I would like a copy also, if you can.
Okay.
I looked at it, I mean, I just don't, but if you're gonna go down the list of,
I've got a copy here if I can.
just burn one copy of it and give the
Who else needs a copy?
1, 2.
5?
No, I'm good. I've got it.
Yeah, because I
Well-
want to scribble on stuff. Go ahead.
Make a dozen. I apologize.
Sorry about that.
But anyway, those are, infrastructure certainly is one of those things that we have talked about.
Can I ask you a question since we've got a little lull in time, I was gonna ask this anyway, and maybe this is a good use of the few minutes. And this is kind of thinking out loud here. You might know the answer to this already. In fact, you probably do. If you do, forgive me for asking, but we got a lot of money and there's a lot of things we can do. Unfortunately, there's pretty narrow criteria about what we can do. Some of the things that we'd really like to do, we can't because it's outside the criteria. A thought occurred to me, and I don't have any idea if this is practical or feasible or even possible. But I know for a long period of years, we've discussed different scenarios whereby we would do some of our own wastewater treatment and maybe recapture some of that in the form of reclaimed water and start building a network where we could use some of that water for irrigation. Now, certainly we can't build out the whole city but at one time, but I know that there's been some challenges to that with the permitting of a conventional wastewater treatment plant. That didn't work out, if I recall, the permitting, and there was a lot of things that didn't quite work out with that. And we don't have a great place to do that, except the one location that didn't work out. My question is, I know there's been a lot of advancements in the last couple of decades, the last 10 years, in the decentralized, smaller, I guess self-contained, maybe that's not the right word, but a smaller type of a plant that can be co-located with lift stations, and it removes a portion of the wastewater from the stream, does something magical with it, and then puts the unusable part back into the stream, and then magically transforms the usable portion into reclaimed water, which we can then use for irrigation and stuff. And Charles, I have no idea. This might be something that is not even practical. That might be why it's not on the list. But could you, not to, if you don't know, I'm not asking you to make it up now and tap dance. I just don't know if this is something worth taking our time to talk about. And this does two things. One is it reduces our use of potable water, which of course is good, but it also reduces the amount of sewage that we have to pump to Tampa to pay for the treatment. So we get some benefits on both ends of this. So is this something worth talking about, or did you already look at this?
Troy, you got any feedback? I mean, I don't know that, anything is possible. I know that, quite honestly, down in the Keys, they've done exactly that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've established smaller treatment facilities. Whether or not they're using it to reclaim, I don't know. But I don't know that it's something that we couldn't check into. Do I have an answer for you right now? No.
Yeah, I didn't mean to set you up for.
It certainly would be, I think,
Thank you.
nice little project to check into.
Well, I'm not trying to make things more difficult for you than they need to be. I mean,
So we did actually look at something similar to that through a pilot study or I'm trouble remembering what it's called now. The University of South Florida, they do these studies with their master's degree engineering students. And we had 3 different studies that we undertook, and that was one of them, was to look at potentially creating this decentralized plant. Basically, it's a pocket, if you will, wastewater treatment facility. It would go in adjacent to one of our master lift stations because you would need a fair amount of water to feed the station. It would then treat a portion of that. You couldn't treat it all because then this lift station would no longer function. So it would have to treat a portion, skim a portion off of what we would send to the city of Tampa, and then you would need to fill that back into the lift station, and it would still need to be mobile enough to move through the force main. So you couldn't put sludge in there. It'd have to be, that's why you couldn't mix all of it together. The sludge would be kind of the byproduct of that decentralized station. So it would go back into the lift station, into the well, and intermix with the affluent water in there, and then get pumped out. I think some of the concerns that were brought up were cost was one of them, probably several $1 million for a small station. You would also have to build a facility to hold water. So you would need a tank. So probably 3/4 or probably 500,000 gallon tank or so, maybe 1/4 250,000 storage tank, because that usage, the station wouldn't be functioning on demand. It would simply treat the water and put it into the storage facility, and then the demand would pull it out of the storage facility. So you'd have to have an on-site tank. So you need a little bit of space. The space that we looked at was B Station, Boy Scout Park, and that's the area where we have enough extra space. We thought it would work down there. You also may have some minor odor issues that you would have to make sure you overcome. So there's certainly some hurdles that would have to be jumped for this to work. The other real big expense would be the infrastructure. So you're talking about a complete new system to deliver that water. You could not use existing lines for obvious reasons. So you would need to put in an entirely new distribution system. And what we looked at with this study, this capstone project is what it was. What we looked at with this capstone project was to pump it to the golf course and have them use it as a form of irrigation. So then they could potentially discontinue the use of their wells. So that wasn't a tremendous savings to the city, but maybe you could expand upon it. But again, you're not going to be able to provide a really massive amount of water. Probably, like I said, 500,000 gallons a day would maybe be max that you could produce out of that. So I think it could be done. I think you've got some permitting issues you need to overcome because of the location adjacent to the river. Certainly the infrastructure costs, you would need to look at those pretty thoroughly to make sure that it would make sense. It could aid the golf course in that reuse water has nutrients in it. It's potable, or treated to potable standards, but it still has nutrients in it, so it could actually aid them in a reduction in the amount of fertilizer they use, which inevitably ends up in our waterways. So that would be a win-win for the city, certainly. But for us to try and create the infrastructure to have it all, pumped to, large sections of the city, that would be a little more problematic.
Mr. Sisler?
I think what this was kind of a study. This was
Right.
not an actual operating system.
Right.
Why don't you give us an opportunity to look and see if somebody is in fact doing this? I know the people down in many treatment facilities all over the Keys. I don't think they're using it for gray water back to customers as of yet, but I think that was their intent. Let us do some research and find out, to see if somebody's doing something like this. We can get back with you. I mean, it sounds feasible. Sounds like a great idea.
Mr. Sisler?
Yeah, would there be considerable after-the-fact spending required to maintain that type of a system?
Yeah, so the system, the plant itself would be self-operational. It would require probably maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, staff to go by just to make sure everything's functioning properly. The nice thing is, if for some reason it were to go offline, you wouldn't really, the only thing you're not creating is reuse water, so it wouldn't necessarily affect our system, other than you may not be able to sprinkle your lawn from that source. But
it would cost, though, because there'd be chemicals and stuff.
yeah, there would, right, yeah, right. So exactly, there would be long-term cost in perpetuity for whatever types of chemicals or whatever types of membranes are used to kind of clean that water. So there'd certainly be a cost associated with that. Maintenance cost.
As I understand it, cities that do that don't have a good option. Like in the Keys, I mean, they're miles and miles away from the next city who can take their wastewater. If we did, is there something that we could do with the city of Tampa to partner with them to reduce our cost and maybe help them build something that they're trying, I know that they're working on this type of treatment, reuse water.
Yeah, the Pure Project.
So is this something that if we partnered with them, it would benefit us in the long run, or?
They already have reclaimed water, though.
Yeah.
They already have their own system. They don't need to build a new one. They
No,
got
as a
it.
matter of fact, that's
the new thing they're working working on. I didn't know if that was something.
It wouldn't benefit the city of Tampa, it would benefit us. We would certainly pay less money in.
No, in fact, if anything, they're likely to resist anything like
Yeah.
this because they're relying on the revenue from us.
So we would
So
see some
They want
money.
to treat our water.
They're not,
Okay.
our interests
They're
are
not-
not
they're not
aligned
upset about
with
it.
this, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We're their largest customer.
Yes, Councilmember Abel.
I would be interested in the costs for perpetuity that you're talking about compared to the savings that this would bring about. But I like the idea of us being able to treat our own wastewater, at least some of it.
Right. No, I mean, I think it could certainly be a good idea. And again, we would see a cost savings from not paying, the cost per gallon to have it treated. And it's a good thing. You're not using drinkable water, potable water to irrigate large portions of the city. That's never necessarily good use
I
of
don't
that
want to
water.
take up our whole meeting with this, but so, yeah, I mean, I think, Mr. Stevenson, if you guys take a look at it, I mean, I don't think it's our intent to give you a 30-day project. I mean, and it also has to be practical and make sense. I mean, we don't want to spend $20 to get a dime, I mean, it's got to be. And the golf course, the obvious choice for the use of this water, they don't pay anything for their irrigation water. They just pay the electricity to run the pump. So I don't know that they're going to be, but, I don't know. It's telecom and there's a lot of irrigation going on in telecom, and there's not a lot of residences right there that are bothered by the odor as much as, so I don't know, just, so anyway, I didn't want to take you away from your, if you want to continue on with, what did I do with that list that, oh, here it is, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, really, I just, I'm here during the workshop, basically listening to the council discussion, more so than we do in some presentations.
Right.
Kind of giving you an idea. I gave you a handout from the beginning of the two-page, that's got some, yellow highlight on it. It identifies the four categories of uses that we're allowed to implement. Just a reminder, our project certainly we have stormwater projects, we've got sewer projects. All of it can be accelerated with this money, which is not a bad thing. We spend out the capital projects based on the budget. Some year we can spend $2 million, some years we can spend $3 million.
Let me ask you another question, not to interrupt you, but if we have to dig up a street to do something water or sewer related with the pipe underneath, I assume this money can be used to restore the street? We got any pipes underneath Whiteway, Ridgeway, Ridgedale? Do we have pipes under Whiteway and Ridgedale and Druid Hills?
We have one under Ridgedale that needs to be.
Well, is that in here? Because if that pipe's got a pinhole in it, why don't we dig up these streets, replace the pipe, and put new streets in over the new pipe?
Certainly could look at that. We have a cost estimate to do that.
Well, what I'm getting at is, there's some city streets that could use the total street concept. The ones that come to my mind would, the major city streets that are not really thoroughfares, but they are, for city streets, they're thoroughfares. And it's Whiteway, Ridgedale, Druid Hills, there's schools on those streets, Gillette. I know we're already doing some repaving, but if we could, and I know we can't use this money for streets, but if we dug the streets up and did something underneath the streets, I don't know, maybe that's pushing things a little too far.
Yeah, I mean, again, Force Main D, is it on the list that it's?
Yeah, it doesn't specifically identify that, but it does talk about.
That would be Force Main D, runs out in Ridgedale, which.
I think that you can certainly, again, look at repairs to storm and water and sewer certainly, and resurfacing the streets certainly incidental to that. So, I think we can put that on board.
Well, I don't wanna get jammed up and then
And I don't
have to
know
pay
if
the
we
money
had
back.
any
I mean,
conversations, but we can certainly put some ideas together and some quantities on how many crossings we.
So I truthfully, I'm just speaking for me, folks, I don't know enough about these projects. I mean, I have faith in you and Mr. Tinch about these projects. The only thing that caught my eye at all was $1 million to connect Fire Station 2 with, when you say we connect the buildings together with fiber, I'm not really sure what, I mean, I know what fiber is. I guess I physically know what that means, but I don't understand the significance of what that does for us. I mean, I'm connected to Oregon at my house wirelessly, so I don't know exactly what that,
That's
Defend your
more of a
800,000.
direct connection what we have with Spectrum right now.
yeah, the only thing I caught on this was like, man, $1 million to connect a fire station to,
Well,
that's a lot of money to connect a fire
So
station
that's
to.
for other buildings though, not just the fire station, for
Okay.
other buildings. So,
Hey, Sally.
Hello. It'll increase the connectivity between us, make it a faster connectivity than what we have now, because right now it's really, it's faster than it used to be, but it's still not on par with what it should be. And the distance between here and Fire Station 2 is where most of the cost comes in. But it also is going to connect our rec center straight to us, the library straight to us.
So what do we do over that connection, I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. What do we, I mean,
We
we
have,
get email, but you can do that without a, I mean, what
Right.
is it that we're doing?
our financials, our Naviline system is housed here in the building. It'll be faster connection for that. Our shared files that are on our common drive, it'll be faster to connection for that. Some of the telephone systems come back to us. It'll be faster for that too.
Does it help us during storms to be connected this way, or we're already connected this way?
It would help, as long as the building, as long as someone's in the building. And during the, like, summer months and the storms like that, as long as everything's operational in all the buildings, yeah, it would help. It'd be faster.
Are we VoIP?
Not 100%.
So I'm not sure, what's our speeds now?
Speeds are 500 megs, and this would
Our
increase,
speeds are 500 now?
this would increase that.
To what?
Oh, it's, I don't know the exact number, but it's almost like an instant connection. It's like, I don't know the exact speeds,
Okay,
but it would
I- I
increase
think
it quite a
that's
bit.
fine. I mean, 500 meg is better than anybody else is getting, unless you're direct wired, obviously. But I don't know, it's an interesting project, but I don't know that what that's gonna do for us. And we're talking about a relatively limited pot of money here. That's one-shot deal, and we need to get the most bang from our buck for it. So, in my opinion, I mean, we need to talk more about the revenue portion of it, or how much of it's actually divisible or workable. I think finance came out, you said 2.6 million. Okay, that's gotta be used for general fund-ish type projects. That's gotta go into the general fund. And then the balance, what's our total balance? What was the total?
total of what we're gonna get,
Yeah,
3.342.
No.
dollars.
Possible.
13,342,000.
Okay, so 13.3 minus 2.6, you're talking what, 10.9 that we can use over something else? Okay, so then we gotta, these prioritized projects here, I think there's enough in here that we can pretty much burn through that relatively quickly.
More than that.
Yeah.
More than that.
As long as there's minimal residual spending that needs to come out of this to maintain that going forward, then use the free money, and we're not incurring future liability and future expense to manage and maintain it. That's the kind of, that's the approach that I'd like to take on it. And move forward with it, at least give the, well, what's the next step? You have to send a list of projects to the feds, or what? How's that gonna work? What's the next step for you? What do you need from us, I guess is my question.
Just really some direction on where you wanna spend $13 million.
Was it 13 or is it
I mean,
11?
obviously, if you wanna spend, I would certainly encourage us to replenish the lost revenue, without a doubt. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's gotta
So we're
be-
talking 11
that's
million then.
Kind of a given, I think, what we need to do. That certainly helps the general fund, obviously, especially because we've built that 2.1 in already.
Yeah, that's,
Anticipation of this money. One of the things, and I guess I'll give you my thoughts, you know, got water and sewer projects that are really in capital projects that are fairly well-funded. Our water and sewer funds, the enterprise funds, are in decent shape. It would be nice to be able to accelerate a few of these projects that are sort of important, like lift stations and major repairs to our water and sewer system. Those are in that list. But if I were to make a suggestion, one of the things that we have never done, that we have started to do a little bit of this year, is some maintenance and some improvements to our stormwater system. That's a big impact, and nobody ever complains about it until we get 4 inches, 5 inches of rain, and then we get complaints. So,
Those are in here, right?
yes, these are in there. We have about 4 major areas in the city that flood every time it rains.
Well, I don't think you're getting any pushback on any of these projects.
No, and I'm just saying, I think that stormwater would be a good place for impact of a windfall of money, that we can certainly make an impact to something that we've never really paid that much attention to. Some of the ponds that we have certainly have never been mucked out. We've done a significant improvement, 78th Street, prime example. We spent $7 million over there trying to get that bucked out, and that was one of those things that has never been done since I've been here. And I don't know
Same
many
thing,
ponds
yeah.
that have been done. When you start filling this pond now with muck, you're reducing obviously the capacity of it.
Yeah, we understand, I think we get that. Councilmember Chan?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna suggest. I know, last meeting I talked about some of the resiliency programs that the planning council are doing, and that the 500-year flood is now happening more, and it's just gonna happen, and we don't have money, like water and sewer projects, we do have already funding. So we need to, I think, concentrate on the stormwater aspect, the ponds, we hear that, especially when it rains. You know, we get that from our residents. So that would be my suggestion, after revenues, of course, I think.
Good observation.
Yeah.
Councilmember Abel?
I'm in favor of looking into stormwater improvements as well. I was wondering though, can you help me understand, for the infrastructure projects that you have outlined, if we were not to accelerate them, how would those be funded? Is that expected to come in anyway, or?
They're within the 5-year capital plan. You guys just approved next year's capital improvements. There's some improvements to stormwater, water and sewer in that right now. The schedule for 22-23 would be advanced next year, to be in 22-23's budget, so on and so forth. So everything kind of just shifts a year. Certainly from year to year, within a 5-year span, priorities change and stuff happens. So that is subject to change, but it certainly gives us a gauge on a year-to-year basis to look at projects that need to be done. If you notice on that list of infrastructure, we tried to apply A, B, C, D to give it some kind of priority. Obviously, we would look at doing something that is A priority versus B priority, unless something changes between now and next year. Certainly things do happen in the system, but I think we've got a comprehensive list of things that we would love to do, but it certainly totals more than $13.3 million.
So if we were to accelerate this and do some of the high priority things that need to be done, a few years down the road, when we were originally going to do those, you wouldn't have any problem finding an infrastructure project to spend money on, would you?
We can never find problems with water and sewer systems.
That's what I thought. Okay,
They
thank
never
you.
go away, and improvements are always there. Special projects are certainly something that is something that we look at in the future.
Well, I think prioritizing stormwater then is really important, because that's otherwise not in the plan, right?
Well, we get water for some maintenance on stormwater from gas tax revenue, but it's never enough. And it's one of those things that we never put a lot of priority on until we have a problem. And then we scramble to buy pumps or generators and kind of keep things operating with a Band-Aid. And I 3-inch rain, 4-inch rain, their problem. I mean, it's just constant.
Thank you.
Well, to me, it seems like we have a good plan. And I think your explanation of the stormwater priority, and it's consistent with what Councilmember Chambers is talking about also, as he's been talking about. So I think we have the bones of a good plan. I mean, this thing obviously could change. I mean, if you start looking down, you might want to move this one up and this one down or whatever. But I think, at least it seems like we're pretty happy with what we have here.
So, and I think our residents will be happy knowing that we focused it on stormwater, because they're the ones, this is involves all the streets. Looking at all these numbers though, so let's say we do all the stormwater projects, you still have money left, so how are you going to prioritize then the others?
Well, I think what I'd like to be able to do is to look at these stormwater projects, and certainly some of them are not immediate. Some of them can certainly be something that we can hold off on or plan for and put them in a 5-year capital plan. I don't know that I would, we've put a bunch of projects in here just to identify 2 council problem areas that we have. There are some new projects in here that you guys have never seen, but we know, between Troy and I, that there is a problem, consistent problem from day to day.
Yeah, and you guys are, I mean, I think we all understand that you guys are gonna have to get over this list and have some discussion about which A is more important than the other A's. And the only thing that, Charles, from my perspective, that, I mean, I don't hate the project, but like lowest on the list for me would be the 800,000 to the connect, to me, that's not as important as hardening the water treatment facility or, you know, making sure our pumps are.
I don't know that I disagree with
Yeah,
you, but
yeah,
it's one of those
yeah.
things that was on the list of
Yeah,
what we'll use.
yeah, I mean, you get down to the point where we got $3 million and we're done with projects, we don't know what to do, okay, and then let's talk about the,
Well, remember, it's, it was important enough to put it on the list, so it needs to be something that we keep aware of if it's an issue. I also, down the road, want us to look at going back to, and I don't know how this got lost, but we had an electrical vehicle station, and now that's gone, and that's something that would help our residents too,
yeah, but
especially.
that's not eligible for this, but that's another discussion that I wanna have.
But that's another, again, using this money to make our residents' lives safer and healthy is really what this is about, and to give to cities the ability to get these things done, where this would have taken us many, many, many councils to get all these done. That's another interesting question. Let's see how much of this we can actually get done, right? Because, as we've all said, unless we're all gonna pick up a shovel soon, it's gonna be a lot of work. So, anyway, I love the stormwater situation, because if you've been reading the papers, you know that it's every city that's been swamped said, we didn't see this coming. So, I'm all in favor of that.
Councilmember Abel?
To that end of increasing health and safety, during COVID times, a lot of people were spending a lot more time outdoors. And I believe a handful of our parks don't have functioning water fountains at this time. And I don't know if it would fit in here, but it's definitely a health and safety concern. And I don't know if that would be something we could consider, is making sure that all of our parks have a working water fountain.
That's a good point.
It relieves dehydration and is good for the environment, because people are going to use water bottles instead.
That's right.
Yeah, I think most of them do, but there may be a few that don't, but we'll check into it. That's an easy thing.
Well, I don't think any of them have the one where you push your bottle up, the ones that fill the bottle. They have regular old water fountains.
Just regular fountain.
Right, but the cleaner ways to have the
Yeah,
water going to it.
I'm sure there is outdoor bottle fillers.
I'm positive.
I don't know that we have them. We
Yeah.
don't have those.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that we can look at retrofitting in the parks. I wrote it down.
Okay, so is this guidance clear enough for everybody?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could bring up one other thing.
Sure.
There's been some conversation of between, city mayors across the state, is using some of this money for vaccine incentives. I know this is a double-edged sword, but I would like to know what council's feelings are about incentives. We know the county has given one. We know that Pasco County is poised to give one as well. There's pros and cons of those. But I do know that there are municipalities that are looking to spend money from the relief funds, recovery funds, on giving incentives to employees to get vaccinated. So,
Well, we need
your
to,
thoughts?
we can have some discussion, but I think we'd have better discussion on that if we had some data, like how many employees are already vaccinated versus, I mean, we'd have to provide the same incentive for the people who already have gotten the vaccine.
Yes. Yes.
And there's other alternatives too. I thought we were talking about, doing a administrative day off, which is a way to provide an incentive that doesn't have, it has a cash value because the employee's not at work that day, but it doesn't have an impact on your budget because,
Well, I'm bringing it up just for discussion. Again, I don't know that I need some direction today, but I just need you to start thinking about that because it's coming. I can tell you this, and I know this for a fact, that Pasco County's offer of incentives to people that are not vaccinated. I know a person up there that refuses to get vaccinated even though he's going to get a bonus, okay? That contention of non-vaxxers is out there. So,
well, that's
People
another,
tell them that they
it's another
don't know.
that's another data point that I'd like to have is suppose just in round numbers, we have 300 employees, we have 200 that are vaccinated and 100 that aren't. And we do this, and let's just say for round numbers, it's $100. So we give 200 people that are already vaccinated $100. But the 100 who are not vaccinated, the $100 is not enough to overcome their resistance. So all we've done is give away $20,000 and not accomplished a thing.
not accomplish anything. That's exactly.
And so that's one of the things that I'd like to know is there, can we survey, first of all, how many people were we talking about? Do we have 12 who are not vaccinated or do we have 150? And then, can we survey them and, will they, for me, if they don't respond to the survey, that's the same as if they won't. If you're not gonna respond to the survey, that's a no.
You can ask somebody, you're not supposed to ask anybody that got a vaccine or not, but if you ask somebody that's vaccinated and they don't give you an answer, you know that they're well, they don't.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that we can have the discussion if you want right now, but we don't have a lot of information.
I need council to be aware, right, that this is out there, and if there's conversation starts out there. I've had conversations with some of my staff, on whether or not this is gonna be something that we can get everybody to buy in on.
But why don't we,
The other thing you're dealing with here is if you get all employees vaccinated, and everybody does get vaccinated, that's employed, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody at home is vaccinated.
yeah, but there's still benefits.
Well, if you can get 100%, that would be awesome.
If nothing else, it does mean that there's a 95% chance that these otherwise healthy people are not gonna die of the COVID, our employees. And just from a purely selfish standpoint, that means we don't have to go through the recruitment and training and, right? That's
Go
a
to their
nasty
funerals.
way to put it,
Say go
but,
to their funerals.
that's a very, I don't mean to sound insensitive by putting it that way, but, these people are at risk when they're not vaccinated.
Well, yeah, and another consideration, Andy, is, you've got people that are not vaccinated that get COVID that end up in the hospital. And the hospital is a big bill.
Yeah,
Goes against our insurance.
yeah, I understand.
That's another consideration.
But Charles, if you're gonna talk about doing an administrative day off as an incentive or using ARPA money as an incentive, either way, I think if I were doing a logical starting point would be to try to survey the people who are unvaccinated to see if they would be responsive to this or not. Because if you get 100 no responses or 100 negative, then all we're doing is paying the people who already, whether we're giving them a day off or pay, all we're doing is
Right.
paying the 200 people that are already vaccinated.
That's why I said, starting this conversation out, this is a double.
Yeah, I would start with a survey of
Oh,
some,
can I just weigh in here for a second? It's not always, I'll give you $100 and that would be enough. It's also things like, if I'm worried, this is what I'm hearing from my friend who manages a hotel. His employees are worried that if they take the vaccine and then they have no sick leave. Now, we don't have that here. But maybe offering something like, okay, if you have a bad couple of days, you know, it has to be multi-level, what we offer to people, because this is a big reach. I wish we could get everybody to be vaccinated, only because we have it all over town, get vaccinated, right? And we have people who are picking up people who have COVID and taking them for medical help, and they're not vaccinated. So it's mind-boggling that they're not. But maybe there's a multi-prong incentive.
They get sick leave.
Pardon?
They already get sick leave.
Well, but maybe they've already maxed it out already. Maybe we say we're not gonna count it against you. Maybe if that's the
How much sick leave are they
reason.
gonna use if they get COVID?
Well, exactly. If you get the vaccine, I'm not talking about if you get sick, I'm talking about, some people have a 2-day, 3-day reaction, okay? And they, you don't want to, you know, they want to know that if that happens, now, again, this isn't quite the same for us as it is for some of those employees out there and other companies that don't have any sick leave. I'm just saying, there could be some other things we could offer them. I don't know. I'm just trying to brainstorm here.
Again, I'm not trying to spend any COVID money or the recovery money right now with vaccine incentives. That's just, this conversation is being had all over the state. There's a handout that I gave you guys, it's blue and white, from our health insurance company.
Oh, yeah, what are they saying?
There's a lot of ideas on COVID and some of this, and its impact on insurance and so forth. So just, again, I just wanna bring to your attention that some of this money from municipalities is being used for this. I'm not bargaining right now to use any of it for
Yeah, I get.
COVID related.
Councilmember Abel, did you look like you wanted to say?
Yeah, just one thing. I think with the problematic nature of asking people if they are vaccinated or not, I think if it was possible to just ask anonymously and say like, hey, if you're not vaccinated, let us know. That would have to be the only way to get the data that you're asking for.
We can ask.
We can ask, they just don't have to answer. But that would be good if we knew that, because I think it's a good idea to incentivize. Maybe you can have a choice of a special day off or the $100, and then it maybe reduces the impact of it. But I like the idea. I just would like to have more information as well.
Yeah, I like the idea too. I just want to make sure that we're going to impact the numbers and not just pay the people that are already vaccinated.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Well, it's gotta be, you gotta accomplish something.
yeah.
Again, I just wanted to bring that to your attention because there is quite a movement going on to incentivize people getting.
Hey, if we can do something to help get our people vaccinated, I think we're all in favor of it. Councilmember Schuster?
I wouldn't be too surprised to see insurance companies come back and say, you're not vaccinated, then you've got a COVID surcharge to pay when you do get sick or if you do get sick. And that would be an incentive to get vaccinated.
I wouldn't
Pardon me?
doubt that either.
Oh, it's coming, absolutely.
I think it's coming from our insurance agent.
I do too. I do too. They're getting tired of paying for
Out of our hands.
paying for it.
I think you're right.
COVID-related illnesses and hospitalizations is really not everyone's ratio.
So the short answer to your question, unless somebody correct me if I'm wrong, is yes, we're very interested in any ideas that you have using this money or other money. If there's something we can do to encourage our employees to get vaccinated, I think all of us are in favor of that. It just has to be done smartly so it has an impact and not just a money giveaway. I mean,
Well, let's ask the employees. What do they think?
We'll kind of put
Yeah.
some information together and
Yeah.
come back with you. Again, this is not something of urgency, but,
No, and
Well,
I
actually, it
think we
is.
all appreciate that you're looking at that.
yeah, it's been rattling around in my head.
Yeah, no, I thank you for bringing that up.
I will tell you this, Pasco County's giving out $500.
Well, and Tampa's mandating, so there's different
Yeah.
approaches.
Well,
And I'm not saying-
mandating, and, you know, again, that's another thing that's rattling around in my head.
Yeah, I don't wanna do that.
No, you can't do that. First of all, you can't apply it to police and fire unions. You can't do that.
Yeah, I don't wanna,
Your own employees, I gotta tell people, if you don't get vaccinated, I gotta terminate you. You won't get garbage.
no, personally, I'm not in favor of that approach, but,
I just think that's kind of a wrong.
I have a question though. I'm not sure about the details for Tampa, but I thought that they said that you either get vaccinated or you get a test every week, wear a mask. So there is an out for those people. It's not like they're forcing you to get the shot, but.
okay, are we good with the ARPA?
I
Folks?
think, let us do a little bit of work. We'll report back to you what our recommendation is to start spending this money.
Yep.
And assigning this money and how we plan on doing it, and then we'll go from there.
Well, we don't have it yet, correct? What's the timetable?
Yeah, that's my question.
I don't know, we'll find out.
We don't know. Okay.
I just talked with the guy in Tallahassee, last week we were in conversation with him. And they've got everything they need, and again, they indicated to me that, they've got everything they need to move forward. Now, I didn't ask him, so what does that mean?
Yeah,
I just have one more question.
Do they have the money yet?
Vice
Do
Mayor
they
has,
have the money? I don't know, maybe I'll ask that question.
Vice Mayor has a question.
I just want to make sure that that we know for a fact that hardening a building for an EOC is off the table. Because that's my number one priority here.
Yeah, I don't think that's an eligible use, but I can ask if you don't.
That's what, I want to hear from somebody that it's absolutely not allowed.
We actually, in the list that we gave you, we hardened part of the water plant, which I think again is like an incidental cost, something that we've been trying to do for some time. Not a whole lot of money, but it certainly will improve our water quality coming out the door. So that's one of those things that I'd like to be able to throw in the mix.
Well, anything that's going in that direction is a plus from me. I'm all thumbs up.
We need a 100 square foot, very hardened water fountain room surrounded by a 30,000 square foot police station. Very good. Anything else?
Whatever
ladies?
works, whatever works.
Ladies and gentlemen, anything? We good? Okay, we'll see everybody at 6 o'clock. We're adjourned.